They don't need to be super formal and serious. We crack jokes. We literally didn't prep at all before this meeting.
Like we didn't even spell check. Tom here with CNWR with Jason.
What's up?
In the person here, because we just had our all hands meeting. I'm holding Traction. This book may have been referenced 1 or 2 times on this channel. What do you think? Maybe?
Yeah, a couple times.
Today was your all hands meeting we do, and I gotta admit, from when I worked in corporate, I always hated some of those.
So did I.
Yeah. But I think it's because they weren't run well. They were sometimes just too stuffy, boring. We try to bring it a lot more concise. It happens rather fast. How long was our meeting today?
Hour and 10 minutes, maybe.
Some of it was spent talking because we were making jokes and things like that. So an hour-long meeting with all the staff, doing this on a scheduled basis to tell people where we are, where we're going, and why. And it's kind of fun because we have 2 locations. We're actually, this is the first time, well, no, not the first time for Business Technicalities, but I'm going to do some other videos here at the Toledo office. We want to do a tour of this office because this is a bigger office. So this is why we have the Southgate people come down to here. It's cool to seeing all the staff together. A couple of them couldn't make it, so they were on remotely. But it's really important just to make sure everyone's on the same page and give everyone a spot to speak if they have questions about or an understanding. And it's not like we're just trying to say, this is the way we're doing it. It's more like, hey, this is the why we do things. What's your why?
Yeah, it's actually behind us there. They're all eating pizza, and there's it's Kim's, our office manager's birthday, so they've got cupcakes. This is my happy place. They're all socializing. It's good. There may or may not be a couple beers flowing, but yeah, it's. I feel it's important, and much like you. So the last couple of companies, I think TNS, the big company. We only did them maybe yearly, or if there was a big event. At Authentic Response, the market research company, the startup one, we did it quarterly, and I hated them because the leadership team would disappear for like 3 days prepping for this weird meeting where they basically just told us a whole lot of nothing. But I do like the concept, right? I like I'm a transparent person. I think we've established that with the amount of stuff we've talked about here. And I want to be transparent with the employees. We share financials. We share way more financials than the average MSP does, I feel like.
Yeah, essentially we're running the company, and this was actually kind of a cool thing. I don't think you would. Maybe you weren't familiar with the terms. I said, do you run an open book? And you're like, huh? And I said, sharing the financials. Yep. Open book's a common term. I think there's a book I read years ago on it. And what you do is making sure people know some of the ins and outs of the business. You just try to be transparent so people aren't guessing how much is going through. And we also say what goals we hit, what goals we missed, how we missed them, how we calculate that. And we talk about the challenges. And like I said, condensing all this down into an hour is an important aspect of it, because the same thing when I worked in corporate, there was the management team would do it. Eventually I became part of the management team, which also that 3 days of mystery, nothing really good. Everyone talked about a good game, but it was all Chiefs, no Indians. Everyone talked about all the things that need to be done, but there was never any action between the last time. That's where this book a little bit comes in, of making sure we set goals, we say which goals we hit, which ones we missed and why, and then we set the next series of goals. And I think it's just really important. It gives a good cohesion to the company.
Yeah, so as a leadership team, 3 weeks ago, a month ago, we all sat down for the full day to do our EOS quarterly. But for this meeting, right, those leaders, they would disappear for days. And I've got maybe an hour and a half into the slide deck, and we literally didn't prep at all before this meeting.
We didn't even spell check.
Definitely didn't even spell check. And a lot of copy pasta, right, a copy paste of updates people give me. And I don't think that they need to be super stuffy, right? They don't need to be super formal and serious. We crack jokes. We crack jokes at people's expense, which is always great. People crack jokes at my expense. I think generally, I haven't heard bad about them. I think they're pretty well received. This is your first one because you were out of town when you did the first
right
one.
After we did the merger, I had an event I had to be at. But being able to attend it, stand up, and I have my part. I still do the consulting. Jason runs the functional operation of the business, so it's been a change for me not being in a role of, I call it importance. If there's a security incident, I'm interested, but I'm not required.
You're now the chicken, not the pig, as far as that old fable goes.
Yeah.
I do like to give everyone a spot to talk. It's a total lie. I actually don't mind talking, but I don't like being the only one that talks. So all the leaders on a leadership team get a slide, and they get to talk about what they've got going on and what they're doing, and we just try to roll through it.
And the part that I wanted to make clear to everyone, and I share my enthusiasm online. People who watch my main channel know it's hey, Tom, he's clearly enthusiastic when he was talking about this technology, I bring a lot of that and making sure the staff knows. I want to train them up and make sure they're understanding the tools we use and things like that. Cheerleading role, if you will, for technology, making sure it doesn't get just boring using the same tools all the time. And me and Jason also talked about how we can be leveraged and make sure the staff always know to improve those tools. Let's talk about how we can be better. We're extremely receptive to that. I think that's an important one because we have, did you say 43 tools?
Yeah. There are 43 things on a list of things that you can log into potentially as a CWR employee. Not everyone has access to all of them, but they all exist.
Yeah.
And there's some duplicates. There's more duplicates now with the merger.
Yeah.
It's actually probably more than 43 now because yours aren't on there.
Right. There's an overlap between these, but it comes down to whittling it down because we're always assessing the tools, but not like me and Jason are assessing the tools. We assess it very directly with the employees, so we always make sure they have a voice in this. And that's one of the things that Jason alluded to. He does like talking, but anyone who had a question on any slides for moving on to the next slide, it was like, hey, is anyone have a question, comment, concern, how we do this? We operate with an utmost transparency, talked about bonuses, when all the fun stuff top to bottom, and we make sure everyone's involved in there, which of course, like you said, it's fun. They're all eating pizza behind us, and now we're here doing a video.
Yeah, and one of the things that I implemented shortly before I became president even, when I was still VP of Ops, was the bonus system. Most of our non-commissioned employees have a 10% bonus potential. Our salary, our leadership management, I think most of them are 20%. And we base 50% on that on the company financial performance. Then we base 25% on department performance and 25% on personal. The nice thing is the company performance one will exceed, right? So we pay a percentage. We actually, due to some internal dumbness on my part, we missed this quarter. We were targeting the wrong number. So we paid a little under, but most quarters we exceed. And
we're going to crush it next one.
Yeah, if we hit 110%, we pay 110% of that, half of the company bonus. And I feel like that's important. We don't formally have a profit sharing program in place, although that could happen in the future. But giving the employees some skin in the game, as far as some part of your compensation is variable based on you doing what you say you're going to do, I feel like is very important in motivating them. And
keeping us all on track for that. And there's always this is a very complicated topic, but maybe that's a good video topic, is how you predict some of these numbers. Yeah. We certainly know how not to predict a few of them. So.
Yeah, we magic dartboard, we're throwing darts at it, trying to figure out financial numbers, and we've gone a number of ways over the years as our sales processes have improved. Our forecasting has improved, which allows us to forecast now from a pipeline. That's good and bad, right? Like in the end, the miss we had this quarter, which was low double digit, like 10, 11%. We missed based on a large project we had forecast to close this quarter, basically getting pushed by the client till Q4. So we had,
which we have the parts. So this also creates a different problem because we have all the equipment for the client changes the date, so now you miss it, and there's over $100,000 worth of stuff on a table over there.
I think this hardware is in your office.
Oh, some of it there too. Yeah,
it's that rack that you guys had to take apart to get in the door.
Yep.
So in the end we'll bill it. But this quarter, the actual real reason we missed was a second error on our part, which is a financial error. We haven't talked about any financial stuff really on this channel, but we did a down payment invoice in ConnectWise, which by generally acceptable accounting practices is deferred revenue, right? So it's sitting in a deferred revenue account in our books. So we've already been paid for it, but we haven't actually invoiced the hardware to the client. So we haven't actually recognized that yet. Had I known that before the end of the quarter, I probably would have just pushed the hardware invoice through to make it.
And these are literally the conversations we had at the meeting. We're not just sharing it with the folks here on YouTube. We're talking with our staff about this, how we look at things. When you're a small company, it's easy because you will start basing things on actuals, and at some point you flip to an accrual based. And once you go that way, you can't go back. Then you follow certain GAAP accounting practices, and there's a challenge when, as you grow, there's the rules of accounting change a little bit.
Yeah, so. I have an accountant for that. I know a little bit. Like I took a couple in my college career, took a couple of finance and accounting classes, so I have a high level knowledge of accounting, but I'm not dumb enough to try to do it myself. No. We definitely hire a professional.
If you watch some of my old videos that are even on my other channel where I talk about starting a business, people ask what's the first thing you hire, and I said an accountant, not a salesperson, not a technician. I said find an accounting firm, outsource your accounting, because if you think the rules for Cisco's licensing are complicated, you've never looked at the IRS rules.
Yeah, and The government just doesn't care, right? Like
No.
there is no begging forgiveness there.
You just pay fines.
You
like
pay
you wouldn't
big
believe.
fines. They
Yes.
get pretty big pretty quick. But back on the topic, any thoughts, any additional thoughts on that? I think we're probably pretty close to the end here.
If you're hating the meetings, you really are doing them wrong. It's no doubt. Me and Jason both have that same experience of we're doing it now. Somehow, 20 years later, now we're sitting in a leadership role. But that being said, we took that to heart and go, there's a better way to do things. There's the old way of doing it was broken. Everyone hated it. We got people here having pizza, having fun. We condensed an entire company meeting down to an hour and 10 minutes. There was laughter, and I think it's important to share everything with your transparency. Because a lot of people keep things really close to the chest. They don't talk about any of the numbers or anything like that. When you get everyone to have the same buy-in, they know the why you do it, they feel like they're part of the cause coming along, and it's not just, to rah-rah them up. We're not cheerleaders. We want them to really be involved in the company from a top to bottom standpoint, to understand their role, our role, what we're doing, and if we're making mistakes, to be as open and transparent as possible. And to know that, hey, somehow we landed in these seats 20 years later doing this. But by the way, we're no different than anyone else. We're not above anyone else. We just have to steer the ship.
Yep. I think that's very important, and them understanding sometimes decisions to employees, they seem really arbitrary, right? And if you're not transparent about this is why we're doing it this way, then you just come across as the no, do it that way because I said so.
Yeah.
And
we're not because you said so, people.
Well, occasionally there is a because I said so, and it's because I said so, but this is why we're going to do it that way, right? It's like, this is the lesson that we learned. We're very data-driven. I think you're relatively data-driven. I'm data-driven. So it's like, let's do something long enough to collect data to figure out it's a dumb idea to do it that way, and then let's pivot quickly and do it different.
And right now here in October of 2023, we got about 30 people working here. So
26.
There's a lot to make sure that we're responsible that 26 people get paid every payroll cycle. So we make these decisions also with that in mind. There are 26 people that expect to get paid. It's a large burden to think about when you go, oh, that payroll number is pretty big.
That payroll number is very large. The payroll number at CWR now is higher than our annual income was when I started.
Yeah, that's that kind of thing. Yeah. It does weigh on you as a person going, I feel personally like I'd feel terrible if people did not get paid. Like if we couldn't, I worked at a company that went bankrupt. I know exactly what it's like to not have the checks go through because everyone was staring around the office looking at each other. And I remember the owner was crying. He felt bad because there's so many mistakes made, but there was those things that the money just wasn't there. The checks didn't cash.
Yep.
And I didn't know what to do. I'm like, do I still work here or not? I really didn't know. I was like, do I do my job or not? Well, I have no idea. So we never want to leave people in the dark.
No, for sure not. Because in that case, the really good employees will be gone long before you get to that point, typically. So it's you definitely enter a downward spiral there. So part of that transparency too is trying to make sure everyone is happy and give them a voice and make sure they're heard, like you said earlier. So.
Yep. So leave your questions, comments down below. Like and subscribe. Tell us what else you'd like to see on Business Technicalities, and we'll keep punching these videos out as long as you keep watching them.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks.
See ya.